Hi everybody, hope you're doing well under the circumstances. Decided we'll do some Vadim Parshas here so that anybody who's interested at your convenience. It's not going to be at a specific time, it'll be available on the Zoom program, and you can get into it whenever you want and watch. And hopefully we could all get some chizuk together in what's really a very challenging time. Now I want to start out with, I would like to speak about the Parsha, a little bit about Acharei Mos-Kedoshim, but I just want to start out with a little bit of mimer I think everybody needs to know. You know, there's Olos de Rabbi Nassan. If you look at the back of Avodah Zarah and Maseches Avodah Zarah, that's where it appears. You could get the volumes, you get the volumes individually, but there's a sefer called Olos de Rabbi Nassan. Masechta was one. It's called one of the Masechtos Ktanos in Shas. And the Olos de Rabbi Nassan, it says like this. It's in Per Gimel Oz Vav in the Olos de Rabbi Nassan. It says like this: Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi Omer Mamadat Torah Bi'al Dusacha. When you learn Torah when you're young, Al Tobar Eini Lamed B'Ziknusi. Don't say, "Well, I'm not going to learn when I'm old." Elalamad Torah Ki En Chiyadei Is a Yichshar Hazel Hazel. Learn Torah. You don't know which Torah is going to be more valuable, more successful. To say is a yichshar, but you know which Torah is going to be a better Torah. So learn Torah. If you learn Torah when you were old, young, learn Torah when you're old also. Hazel zel okishneim tovim. Maybe they're both good. Shenemar b'boker zera zarecha l'arv yatach. In the morning, sow your seeds, and in the evening, don't let your hand rest either. In other words, morning is when you're young. Evening is when you're older, in the later stages of life. Then he says, if you learn Torah when you're wealthy, don't tell Rabbi like I said this, but halavai on all of us soon. Don't stop learning even if you become poor. If you're learning Torah when you're satiated, don't stop when you're hungry. By us, it's usually the opposite way around. We learn when we're a little bit hungry. After you've had a chont or a Friday night meal, then we generally don't learn Torah. But okay, it means so you're satiated, you're content, you have your financial means. If you've learned Torah when things are comfortable, don't avoid it at Shas Adchak. Better one thing b'tzar than mea b'revach. Now you've probably heard this quoted, is tov echad b'tzar mimea shelo b'tzar. But the accurate quote is shetov lo la'adam dover echad b'tzar mimea b'revach. Better one thing with challenge than 100 where it's easy. So I heard, Rav Weber Shlita once explained this. Tov echad b'tzar mimea shelo b'tzar. That means that if a guy comes to the yeshiva, you learn Torah for an hour when you have a headache. That means you've learned for 100 hours. You can't get careful here. You can't use this as an excuse now. Well, I learned 1 hour Rebbe because I had a headache, and therefore I don't have to come the rest of the day. That's not what it means. It means the value of the learning when a person learns when it's challenging. It's tovecha b'tzar mimea shelo b'tzar. So a person has to know that right now we're in a difficult situation. But there's times to learn when you have a chavrusa and you have a shtender and you got the delicious food and you got everything else. There are other times, okay, now you got the delicious food at home, but the chavrusas and nobody's watching over you. There's no mashgiach who you have to look in the eye, and it's a time where a person really has to take some self-initiative over here. But just remember, mitzad echad, don't have unrealistic expectations. You got to push and you got to try to do as you can. Don't be too harsh on yourself if you don't live up to your own expectation, which may be unrealistic. On the other hand, person has to realize that we could push, and there are certain times of life where we really have to push. And this tells us a lot about ourselves. We find out are we making the most of the time? Are we just sleeping in? Are we davening, even though if we have to daven b'yechidus? Are we putting in a little extra into the davening, try to concentrate a little bit, and so on and so forth. So it's a difficult time. It's a challenging time. Says the Olos de Rabbi Nassan, it doesn't matter. We're not free. We're not potter. We got to learn anyway, and we got to do the best that we can under circumstances, and realize that for every minute that we learn, it's 100 minutes. Every hour that we learn is 100 hours. Every day that we learn is 100 days. And therefore we have to make every effort to try just to at least do the best we can do the best we can under the circumstances. That's the first point. Now, I just want to, just a couple of points from the parsha over here. The parsha we just learned, Parshas Mitzora. First, I will share with you the idea of Badad Yeshev Mechutz L'Machana, that everybody knows that the Mitzora has to go outside of the camp. And being outside the camp, he's all by himself. So we understand there's Tuma and Tamei Yikra and everything that goes with it. One of the Meforshim, I forgot who it is, he says, what's the lesson here? Okay, the guy's got to be alone. So Chazal say, when you talk Lashon Hara, you cause friction among people, and people stop talking to each other. They separate from each other. So because you separated other people, so you yourself have to be separated. Okay, that's one of the approaches here. But I think it's more than that. I think that sometimes a person, it could be even with a group of people, even when we're around people, sometimes we don't appreciate people as much as we should. Sometimes we feel, people annoy me. If I gave you a pencil and a paper and I gave you a list and I said, I want you to write down the flaws of all the guides in the yeshiva, all the rebbeim in the yeshiva, all the mashgichim in the yeshiva, except the second-year mashgiach, flawless, but all the mashgichim. If I gave you a list of pencil paper, you could sit and start writing forever. And if I gave you a list that says, I want you to write positive things about everybody, then it would be a little harder. Then we're a little slower to write the positive things. And the reason is that we're very critical. When it comes towards people, we're very, very critical. We look at people with kind of a critical eye. Some Rav was once giving a shear, and a dog walked in the middle of the shear. A little dog comes wandering in, and everybody in the shear turns around. Usually people are going, wow, look, a doggy. And everybody's looking, doggy, hi, doggy. Everybody's looking at the doggy. Everybody loves the doggy, right? What happens when a new person walks into the shear? If a new person walks into the shear, then people are a little bit more, I don't like the way he's walking. Who does they think he is? He's strutting. Everything we see, we're very, very kind of zero in on the flaws. We're very capable of that. And sometimes people say, I like my roommate, I don't like my chavrusa, I don't like guys sit within a lunchroom. All of a sudden a person's badad yeshu, a person's sitting alone, a person's isolated, then we realize how much that mitzvah is going to realize how much he appreciates people. We, right now, are in that situation. Badad yeshu, we're all isolated in our homes. Number one, we realize how much we miss other people, how much we need social contact, how much we miss guys in the yeshiv chavrusas, how much we appreciate getting a certain appreciation of other people. It could be because we're around our families, so then it works the opposite. I could use some badad yeshiv vis-a-vis my family, but that's also challenging on both sides. The same way that it says in this week's parsha, Ishimo v'aviv tiro, gotta be very careful on kibbut avayim over here. And kibbut avayim is a very, very difficult mitzvah. Kibbut avayim is very, very challenging. A guy once came to Rav Shach Zatzal, and Rav Shach said to him, this is a guy whose family wasn't from me, become a Baal Tshuva. He came to Rav Shach, and he said his parents wanted him to come home for a Shabbos. And he's worried because Chilul Shabbos, the house doesn't run properly, and he's worried about Chilul Shabbos. Rav Shach said to him, Chilul Shabbos is very, very chomer. So he said, so I shouldn't go home he says, Kibbut Avayim is a very, very important mitzvah. He says, so I should go home, but what about Chilul Shabbos? Chilul Shabbos is very, very, very severe. He says, I shouldn't go home. He says, Kibbut Avayim is a very important mitzvah. He kept going back until the guy got the message. It's Kibbut Avayim, you got to do it. Just got to be careful not to do Chilul Shabbos. So we're in a situation right now. Things are tight. Things are what do you call it? The halacha is that if you serve your father, the halacha says openly, if you serve his based on the Gemara and Kedushin, if he serves his father petumos, you serve your father fattened geese. You serve your father something really rich and delicious. But if you do it with a frown, you don't get schar, you get an onish for it. That's what it says in halacha. It's got to be, as difficult as it is, Pesach is over, baby. Preparing for Pesach all the time we're in the house. The person has to know that it's extremely important. Keep it out of the aim to be upbeat. Your parents are very concerned about you. Your parents want to see that you're in a good mood. Your parents are under a tremendous amount of pressure right now because of everything that's going on. And it could include financial pressure, health concerns, and so on and so forth. You have to try to help them out by being as upbeat as you possibly can. That's extremely important, number one. Number two, I just want to mention one last thing from last week's Parsha. In Acharei Mos-Kedoshim, in Parshas Mitzora, if you look this up, you're not going to believe it. But in Perek Tesvav, Pasuk Ches, so it talks about the Zav. It says the Chiyarok HaZav Batar, talks about the tumah that comes out from Zav. So there's a Das Zakenim, the Bali Toso say, why is it that the rok, the spit, or any other liquid that comes from a zav is mitame when it comes from him? Why does the liquid a zav spits, or he whatever it is, he passes on some sort of fluid? He wasn't wearing his mask, and he passes it on, and somehow that's mitame the other person. So he brings on a Maisa over here, just so you see. Say for a shower hour, and couldn't make it up if I wanted to. He brings on a Maisa over here that he says, well, there's a certain chiyus, there's a certain life force to it. Now, I don't know exactly what he means, but the Maisa is what I want to share with you. He says that Pam Achas, there was once a guy, shechotchu lechad chotmo. They cut off his nose. Ruvain had his nose cut off. I don't know why. I don't know how somebody, I guess they were trying to pull a splinter out of his hand, and somehow they managed to cut off his nose. I don't know exactly what happened over here. And then he says, they also cut off Shimon's nose. So I guess it was going around. It's one of these catching things. So they cut off Ruvain's nose and they cut off Shimon's nose. This is a dasicator. I'm not making this up. And they reattached the noses to the people. The problem is that they attached Ruvain's nose to Shimon, and they attached Shimon's nose to Ruvain. Oh, you hate when that happens. That's a bad mistake. And so they attached Ruvain's nose to Shimon, Shimon's nose to Ruvain. And then it says that when Ruvain died, so his nose was on Shimon. When Ruvain died, Shimon's nose fell off of him, because that was Ruvain's nose. The nose that was on Shimon died also. So now Ruvain is dead, Shimon is noseless. I mean, will it never end? So he says that's a riot to the chiyus. That has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about now, but I couldn't resist telling you that Maisa that's brought down from the Das Zakenim Bali Toso. So, they say you watch your back. I guess the lesson here is watch your nose. Now, more than that, the Torah Parshas Acharei Mos, there's a pasuk here that says, Bezos Yavo Aaron El HaKodesh. It's Perek Zayin pasuk Gimel. Bezos Yavo Aaron El HaKodesh. And it talks about how Aaron is supposed to enter. Now, we're talking about on Yom Kippur, and Bezos, before I should say, the gematria of Bezos is 410. Beis is 2, Zayin is 7, Aleph is 1, and Tuf is 410. Bezos Yavo Aaron El HaKodesh, which is the 410 years that the first Beis HaMikdash stood. So this alludes to the idea of the first Beis HaMikdash. Now, because that's when they had the Kodesh HaKodoshim, where they actually had the Aron Kodesh. By the time of the second Beis HaMikdash, Aron Kodesh was there. He sprinkled in the blood. He sprinkled Bein Habadim between the poles where they used to be, where the Aron Kodesh used to be. Sorry, the Evan, not the Bein Habadim, the Evan HaShasiya used to be there. Now, when you look at Parshas Acharei Mos, so it talks about this whole concept of the Kohen Gadol going in, and then it gets to the two Seirim. And there's the Seir La Hashem, and there's the Seir La Azazel. So, Rav Hirsch, that's all, he mentions, you got these two goats. Now, the two goats, they look alike. And there's an idea that a person's fate is in the balance over here, and it's all going to be determined on Yom Kippur, and the two goats represent that it could go either way. Okay, be that as it may. The two goats, Rav Hirsch says, imagine if you could get into, goats are animals, obviously they can't think, but imagine if they could think. What would they be thinking? One of the goats is La Hashem. One of the goats La Hashem. What do they do with the goat La Hashem? They take him into the Beis HaMikdash, they draw the lots, they put it on him, they take him into the Beis HaMikdash, and they shecht him. That's the goat La Hashem. The other one is the goat La Azazel. They take him out to the wilderness, and he wanders, and he goes up to the top of the cliff, and then they push him off the cliff, and he falls down the cliff, and he dies, he breaks to pieces. Now it's the Eivar Mevar. So, Rav Hirsch says, imagine what these two goats are thinking. The goat, the Seir La Azazel, takes a look at this other goat, and he says, look, here's my friend, the Frumi. He's a Seir La Hashem. His whole life is a bunch of sacrifice. He's got halachas, and he's got limitations, and he's always learning, and he makes it to minyan on time, and this guy doesn't talk lashon hara, and he keeps all the halachas, and he's up. Who wants to live a life like that? And the seer, and what happened? Where does he get the idea from? Because he's La Hashem, he's shechted, his sacrifice. Where does that Seir LaHashem end up? He ends up being in the Beis Hamikdash. What about the Seir LaAzazel? The Seir LaAzazel is the guy who lives life free. I've got no limitations. I'm out in the wilderness, and they take him up to the top of a mountain, and there he is. He's on top of the world, laughing at his friend the Frummi, who's living a life of sacrifice. And then one push, and down he goes. One push, and down he goes. And Chazal say Rishoyim, eventually they go down. Eventually the Rasha goes down. So Rav says these two Seirim are a mindset of people. You got the one person who lives by the rules, sacrifices, but he ends up in the Beis HaMikdash. He ends up living a life of fulfillment and contentment, and you got to sacrifice. It doesn't happen by itself. Then you have the other goat, who thinks that living life free and uninhibited and without any rules and hefker, and that's really the way to enjoy life. And eventually he goes to a crashing end, his demise. He falls off of the cliff and he's gone. So the lesson of the two goats is that there's the Seir LaHashem, the Seir LaAzazel. And I want to mention one last point here. The Torah later on talks about Pasuk Yud Zayin, Perik Yud Zayin, Pasuk Daled. Perik Yud Zayin, Pasuk Daled. This is all I want to mention tonight, just to start us off. And I think that this is important for our subject later this week. Be'ezer Hashem, we'll have more shir on the parsha, pure parsha. But this is just to get us started off. Perik Yud Zayin, Pasuk Daled. The Torah says, it's talking about Shchutei Chutz. V'daber Hashem al Moshe, Leimor daber al Aaron v'al banav v'al kol bnei Yisrael, v'mart lehem, zeh adover asher tziva Hashem, Leimor, ish ish mibeis Yisrael, asher yishchat shorokesav leis b'machane, or asher yishchat michutz l'machane. V'al Pesach al Moed lo yivio. Look, he didn't bring his goat, he didn't bring his korban to the Pesach al Moed, lahakriv korban laHashem, lifnei mishkan Hashem, dam yechoshev lishu dam shafar, he spilled blood. He's cut off. He's called Shchutei Chutz, he gets a chiyuv kares. So, one of them before said, what does it mean? Dam yeshafech lishu dam shafar? Okay, shech the korban. First say, he spilled his own blood. He spilled his own blood. Why? He had a chance for a kapara. He's got a korban. Every korban's a kapara. He could have had a kapara. Brings his korban. He could have had a kapara. What did he do? He wasted it. He shechted it. Boom. He wasted it. And the blood got spilled. So, the Mefarshim say that, a person who has a kapara has a chance. Imagine a guy could go to the king and beg for his life, and he could get off. He's on death row. And instead of that, he goes out and goes golfing that day. So a person like that is wasted. He spilled his own blood. He had a chance. All he had to do is come to the king. He could have gone in and gotten a kapara. You went, you wasted the blood. So Stam, you're a fool. More than that, the lesson for us right now is, and it's very normal, we all think to ourselves now, and in many difficult situations of life, we think, when things get better, then I'll really start functioning. Then I'll really be productive. The person has a headache. You know what? I can't go learn right now. When I'm done with my headache, then I'll go learn. When I don't have financial issues, then I'll go and I'll learn. When I don't have this situation, then I'll really get going. It doesn't work that way. Dam yeshafach, dam shafach, dam yechashev le'yishahu. It's not when things get better. This is the matzav. This is the situation. This is when we have to make the most of our challenge. Right now, this is the situation. Tomorrow, Be'ezer Hashem, Yirtzeh Hashem, tomorrow things will improve. If not tomorrow, next week. If not next week, in a week later. Then we'll have a different life circumstance. But it's always like that. There's never a perfect life circumstances, and when it is, it doesn't stay very long. So a person has to know, don't waste the opportunity. Right now, we have an opportunity to grow a certain way. We didn't ask for it. We wouldn't ask for it for l'chatchila, but it's here. And we have this chance right now to grow a certain way. So we have to make the most of the opportunity. Right now, we have to grow the way the Rebbe Shalom wants us to run it. Not dam shafach, wasting our time and spilling our blood. And again, I say, everybody within realistic expectations. We can't go beyond sometimes. We're trying to be a little under-realistic. After all, we are in the house, and we are around family members, and we are out of a normal routine, which is the hardest thing in the world. The hardest thing in the world is being out of a routine. But under the circumstances, that we shouldn't waste the opportunity, and there's a tremendous opportunity, tremendous potential to grow. I'll end with a medrash. Many of you know, some of you know the medrash, some of you don't know the medrash. There's a medrash about a guy who was on his way up to Yerushalayim. And on the way up to Yerushalayim, he was on his way to Eretz Yisrael. And he saw on his way out to Eretz Yisrael, he happened to be by the side of the road, he saw these two birds fighting. And one of the birds killed the other bird. And so this guy went and he took a blade of grass. He watched the birds. One of the birds went over, took a blade of grass, and he touched it to the dead bird, and the dead bird came to life. This guy had grass that is Mechayim Esim. There's other grass that Alan's in jail. This guy had grass that's Mechayim Esim. Depending on what city you live in, because sometimes it's legal. But he had grass that's Mechayim Esim. So the guy takes this grass. He said, wow, this is great. I'm going up there to Yisrael. This is terrific. I'll be able to be Mechayim Esim. He's on his way up to Eretz Yisrael. He's got this grass that's Mechayim Esim, and on the side of the road he sees a fox, a dead fox. So he says, "Well, let's give it the old try. Let's see if it works." So he goes over to the fox and he does the test. He puts this grass on the fox, and the fox comes to life. Because this is great. It works. Okay, keeps on going. Can't wait to get to Eretz Yisrael. And then he happens to see on the side of the road a dead lion. So he says, "Well, let's give it one more try." So he takes the grass and he goes over and he touches the dead lion. Very, very bad idea. Dead lions, I guess, get hungry while they're dead. The lion comes back to life, and the lion obviously gobbles the guy up. That's what the Medrash says. It's a Medrash. I always wondered, what does the Medrash tell us? What kind of fool would go and test the grass to see if the lion is going to come back to life? What's the Medrash trying to tell us? The Medrash is trying to tell us, you got an opportunity, buddy. You're holding the key to Tchias HaMesim in your hand. And with one narishkeit, one foolishness, you could go and you could throw that away. You've got all that potential. You could throw it away. Rabosai, we have an opportunity now. It's not easy. I'm telling you, I know it's not easy. We have an opportunity now to grow in a way that's different than we ever have. It's different than any other Bein HaZmanim. And it's different than any other vacation, and it's different than being in the Zman, and it's different than being in the mirror, and it's different than being anywhere. We have an opportunity to grow now in a way that we may never have again in a lifetime. This is a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence. And we may never have this. So we have to grab the opportunity, make the most of the opportunity, and Be'ezer Hashem will be through with this, and at the end of later this week, Be'ezer Hashem will hope to at least get one more shir on the Parsha, maybe a Vaad. Be'ezer Hashem.